Coming back.
Thank you. In just a few moments, performer Barbara Mandrell fills us in on her life, her career, and her new album. And coming up tomorrow, a battle between the generations. We're going to have a debate on Social Security. Will young people ever benefit from the Social Security system that they're supporting?
Sonya, live in L.A. with Dr. Sonya Friedman.
Welcome back. In just a moment, Barbara Mandrell, and is she beautiful, fills us in on her 87 tour and her brand new album. But first, let's check in at the business desk with Myron Candell in New York.
5%.
Country music singer and performer Barbara Mandrell is a 27-year veteran of show business. At age 11, she started making music, collecting along the way several country music awards, many #1 hits, and a popular TV series with her sisters. But Barbara's enormous success was slowed 3 years ago when she was in a near-fatal accident. The crash devastated fans, but Barbara recovered, coming back as strong, maybe even stronger than ever. She's currently in the middle of her Sure Feels Good tour, and she's promoting the album of the same name. I want to welcome you today. It is wonderful to have you here. And I am one of those fans who sat back and said, come on, get with it, get well. That must have been difficult in a way, trying to heal yourself and knowing that so many people wanted you to get out there.
I think the love and the support was a major, major factor, and certainly all the prayers. And God really blessed me, because I feel fabulous, and I'm back at it full force. And I'm very grateful for that. And I'm on the beginning of my tour, by the way. This is the beginning of my 4-month tour.
50 cities in 4 months. Is that what you just told me?
Yes, a little in excess of 50 cities.
Well, how do you do that? How do you manage to pace yourself and get the sleep and the food and all of that? What's the skill and art to it?
Well, I'm very fortunate that I have learned how to, for the first time in my life, say no. That maybe sounds small, but I never could say no.
That's a big thing, especially for a woman.
Maybe that's true. Particularly a workaholic type of a person. But I now have requested, and that's the way it's going. My agent Joanne Berry has arranged it that way. I'm touring for 87 for the 4 months, and I'm basically touring for 2 weeks, and then I'm off for 2 weeks. I tour for 2 weeks, and I'm off for 2 weeks, and yet I will still pass 50 dates in that 4 months' time. And even when I'm home, I'm working very, very hard. It's a very many projects. This is a really neat time in my life. I'm a very lucky young lady, because I constantly, I should say periodically, every at least 2 or 3 months, I'm doing something with television, and that I love because it lets me visit, you know, with everyone. And I just signed approximately a month ago a contract with Bantam Books to write my autobiography, and so I have a couple of years to complete that, and that's very major. It's really something to put that all into words.
Is it going to be called Sure Feels Good?
No, I have a working title. They tell me that it's the same in the literary field as it is in movie making and all that. You have your working title. Right. And it occurred to me as I started putting giant thoughts together for the story of my life and sharing it, that there were many times where there were major factors in my life that I said, no, never, absolutely, no, I never will. But one of them was, no, there never will be a story of my life. And now I'm writing it. So my working title is Never Say Never. I also said that I would never do a television series, and I did. So there are many factors.
You know, it's a wonderful change of perspective that we get as we get a little older, don't you think?
That's the only joy I find in getting older every year, is I like to at least tell myself that I'm a little wiser than I was last year. I hope so, anyway.
Is that something that you concern yourself about, though, when birthdays come around? Do you say to yourself, gee, this career is even more precious today than it was yesterday, because we don't know how long it's going to go on?
Oh, golly. I don't mean that I've ever taken my career for granted, but I have such a fantastic, stable, true relationship with my, quote, fans, if that's what we call people that enjoy it. And no, they love me in such a way that I feel very sure of our love for each other, and I know how I feel about them. And so I've never really questioned that my career would go on. And please understand, I'm not saying that I take it for granted. In fact, I'm more grateful as things happen to me. I think that's why it takes so many years to realize any sort of, quote, success, is so that we can really appreciate. I was teasing with you before we went on with everyone. I said, these are my colors. My touring bus I did in the mauves and the grays and whatever. And that made me think of it on the subject we're on, because even today with my tour buses, sometimes I look and I think, golly, this is mine, because I toured over the years in car, pulling a trailer, and my first bus was in 1970, and it was built in 1948, and it broke down a lot, and my father, who's my manager, Mandrell, played in my band. He also drove the bus. My mother made my costumes. My sister Louise at that time was my bass player and fiddle player and backup singer. My other sister Erlene was my drummer. You see, when you have to work at it and it comes slowly, you say thank you.
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
and it means something.
It's a really deep sense of appreciation. Is that what Sure Feels Good is all about? I mean, in that title...
Well, the full title of Sure Feels Good is, there's a title song on the album that says, Sure Feels Good being with you, just being with you. And that's why I tour, aside from making a living, you know. I tour because I am an entertainer, and it feels so good to, quote, deliver the goods, to feel like when I come off that stage that I made people happy and entertained
You know,
them.
I really know what you're talking about there. I think to feel good about what you do and good about yourself takes a long time to get there. And then you have these people who are important in your life, a husband to whom you've been married about 20 years, and children, and a fairly new little one.
Yes, he will be 2 this month.
And then you have those people who may stay back in Tennessee, which is home ground, or do they travel with you? How do you negotiate that?
Well, my priorities are my family, certainly. Of course, my faith in God is first, but my family, and then my career. It used to be where I thought it was like 50-50, career and family, you know, and that I could make them both work even Steven. And now I don't strive in any shape, form, or fashion to do it that way. It's career. I mean, excuse me, it's family and career. And you know, I just have to, you have to make time. You have to make things happen. And when I'm home, not every single day, but a vast majority of the days, I cook supper. I have a marvelous, who's the real lady of the house that's been with me for years. Martha Smathers is the one that, Martha Smathers runs my house and loves my family and takes care of them, because I have a son in high school and I have a daughter in grade school, as well as my little toddler. So school keeps them from traveling with me all the time. But I was on the phone last night. My daughter, who is 11, has decided to take saxophone in school this year. And so I had to share, because I do play saxophone, some information as mommy with her about that, and it made me so proud.
It's wonderful to hear you say that, because I think a lot of people have a very false impression that just because you sit in the same room 24 hours a day, you've got a good relationship, and just because you don't, you don't. That's inaccurate.
No, I think it's certainly, what's the old thing, the amount of time together is quality, not just quantity. But it's also, my husband is very remarkable, and he's watching us today, and I miss you very much.
Oh, that was nice.
Anyway, he is a real genius when it comes to mathematics, physics, business, you name it. So he is the one that helps my children with their math and all of those sort of things, and I can't. But I can help her with the saxophone, maybe.
That's good. Do you have one secret fantasy of what you still want to do in your career that you haven't achieved at this point? What is it? Will you tell us?
Oh, sure. I've told it, not necessarily to the public, but to the people that count. I'm working on it. It's maybe got nothing to do with my career, but my lifelong dream is I want to be catapulted off a Navy aircraft carrier, and I want to land. And I don't mean in just I want to do it in a fighter. I know it's an old plane, but I love the F-4. My husband was a Navy pilot.
If you ever do that, I hope you'll tell us. We'd like to get out there and film that.
Well, I want it so badly. I have flown with the Blue Angels.
Wow.
And I've done, you know, the aerobatics with them. I even flew formation. If I could have opened the canopy, I could have touched the other plane. And I flew with the Thunderbirds, and it's just
Barbara had no
dream come true.
idea. That is just great. You are a delight. I hope that you'll give us the pleasure of having you come back again. It sure feels good.
You're so hospitable, and I
Being
thank
with
you
you.
very much.
Thank you. When we return, Ralph Wenge in Atlanta is going to fill us in on all the latest in the news.